Hi, I'm Rachel, and I think I say this every week for my Am Reading videos, but I'm hoping to make this quick. Had a really busy weekend, or maybe it was just busy today, but I gotta go to bed, put it all to bed, and so that I can get up tomorrow for, my normal weekday beyond my 15 minutes of fame. Because tonight I went to the launch for District Line, so this anthology right here where my short story Quarter Life is published. It is inside. I got to, stand when my name was announced, and I got to sign a few copies for people because among the people in attendance were two booktubers. This turned into my first booktuber meetup. I mean, what an egotistical way to start booktuber meetups, where it's like, yes, I am published. I will sign your book. But yes, Peg, from Peg the Book Prize Maniac, came from down south into the district, and she was able to recruit Ernestly Easton. He is a booktuber who is relatively new to me, very new to me really, and is the person I believe who now lives the closest to me that I know of anyway, and the two of them were there, and we got to hang out at the reading, and so that was really great. And yeah, well, they took lots of really nice pictures that I believe that they will be sharing on their own channels. I'll link those below. And I took a little bit of footage myself that I think I will be incorporating into my next AuthorTube video, which I intend to be making later this week. So I'll have this book back during that time. But on to books written by people who are not me. I'll start with this relatively unknown author, Virginia Woolf. I think I'm being funny. I just finished Night and Day, her second published novel. I think this one was a bit of a struggle for me, and I'm kind of hoping it is not indicative of my entire Virginia Woolf reading experience, because I have 4 more novels that I want to read from her in quick succession. But this one was very long, it was a bit convoluted, it was also very realist. It was just like a normal novel in a lot of the way in which it was told. And I actually went and did a little bit of research into that, about how I think I found a Michael Cunningham article, because he wrote The Hours based on Mrs. Dalloway, and he talked about how this book and The Voyage Out were more of her attempts at realism to before she got as comfortable with stream of consciousness and sort of that style that she's much better known for. And yeah, this novel revolves around, well, the copy always says it revolves around 4 characters, Mary and Ralph and Catherine and William. I'll just use their first names, it's easier. And it's sort of this sort of convoluted love story about the entanglements that these people get into, and also a character, Cassandra. And the most intriguing part to me, I think, was Virginia Woolf's commentary on the women who didn't necessarily feel inclined toward marriage. Catherine was someone, I think, who struggled a lot with a sense of autonomy, and a lot of her language actually, or at least some of her language, inched close to a room of one's own language, where she was ruminating on wanting space of her own to be her own person, and it seems like she wanted to study astronomy and math and things that she couldn't do within the confines of her family. And then there was another character, Mary, who started working out for a women's suffrage movement, but then moved on into working for another organization that dealt with the impoverished people in London. And I talked a lot about how fulfilled she was by her work as a secretary. She was actually much more of a minor character, I thought, for being so prominently featured on the cover copy, but those characters really stuck out to me the most, and I kind of found the guys to be a bit insipid. And also, I admit that for all of Woolf's lush narrative, it was so thick that I did use LibriVox. They had a recording on LibriVox that helped me get through this. It is 500 pages long, and it's certainly not one of her best known novels. So I haven't written my review yet. I think I want to ruminate on it a little more, but I'm kind of hoping. It wasn't my favorite thing I read this week, and it feels like sacrilege when you're talking about Virginia Woolf, but that's where it stands. I'm hoping for better with this number, with Jacob's Room. I believe it is much more in tune with the stream of consciousness style. This is her third novel. It's also much shorter. I'll read from the back. Set in the halcyon days of pre-war innocence, Virginia Woolf's third novel, Jacob's Room, follows the progress of a young man as he passes from adolescence to adulthood in a hazy rite of passage. Wandering through the windswept shores at Cornwall to the sun-scorched landscape of Greece, his character is revealed in a stream of loosely related incidents, thoughts, and impressions. As Sue Rowe writes in her introduction, subtle, delicate, and tantalizingly suggestive, Jacob's Room is the novel in which Woolf examines for the first time the relationship between memory and desire. So, yeah, I'm still assuming it might be a little daunting of a read, but hoping that this one might be more my style. This next book is undoubtedly my favorite. It is my favorite of any of the books I've read so far this year. This is All I Love and Know by Judith Frank. It won my page 112 tag that I did last week, and I think I made a great choice. This was fantastic, and admittedly, you know, I was reading this and the Woolf one concurrently. I mean, I read this on the way to and from work and during lunch and stuff like that, and I read the Woolf one at home. And I was much more taken with this one. I thought about it all the time. Even sometimes I'd be ruminating about it, letting my mind wander when I was reading Virginia Woolf. This is not stuff I should admit to. Anyway, this was just incredible. This deals with a interfaith gay couple who live in Massachusetts, and one of the couple's his brother and sister-in-law die in the Second Intifada in Jerusalem. There's a bomber in a cafe. They die. They leave two young children behind, and the children are left somewhat controversially in the gay couple's care. We start with a little bit of a custody battle in Israel, then we move to America, where, spoiler alert, the uncles do get custody of the kids, but really this novel is, well, it's about so much. It's about parenthood, it's about identity, it's about clashes with Israel, like particularly with the Jewish member of the gay relationship, Daniel, his convoluted relationship with Israel, and it's just so rich and textured and complicated, and the characters were flawed and wonderful. And I mean, sometimes, as you know, as a Jew and a Zionist, I got a little offended by some things, like especially when the non-Jewish partner Matt was deciding to learn Hebrew because the two kids were speaking Hebrew, and he at one point was grousing over this as being the language of the oppressor, and I'm like, oh God, no, that's just awful. But I mean, I talked in my last video about objectivity and subjectivity, and I mean, there's a lot subjectively that I thought kind of grinded my gears a little bit, and I saw on the Jewish Book Council that they weren't able to keep their own opinions out of the review either. But at the same time, I think objectively, I believe that the characters always rang true to me. I mean, even if I didn't agree with them all the time, they rang true, and they were complicated, and they were flawed, and they were so viscerally real. I was talking to them and thinking about them all the time. This world was just so real to me as I was reading it. There was a lot that I found familiar as a Jew and a Zionist who is interested in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and there was a lot that was intriguing to me about issues of being a gay couple in America in the early 20th century. I think Sean the Bookmaniac said in one of his videos recently that he couldn't find many women who could write gay men realistically, and of course I myself am also a woman, so I can't speak from direct experience, but I think you should give Judith Frank a try in this book. I really think she nailed it, and she is a lesbian herself, so maybe that could add to realizing that gay people are people. But I mean, these characters and their romantic and sexual relationship felt, you know, real to me. It just, I mean, it all felt real to me. We also went into their 6 to 7 year old niece, Gall, and her reaction to the death of her parents and trying to find a sense of normalcy, and that was also beautifully done. I think, though, that might have been the area where I struggled the most with the book, because, you know, it's just so complicated to write a character that young. It's just very difficult to do, so sometimes I think maybe Frank took a few missteps, but overall it was wonderful. I loved it. This is just, oh god, I don't want to think in terms of ranking favorites on BookTube for my, you know, upcoming favorites of BookTube videos, but this stands a really strong chance of being up there. This was great. I recommend it. I love it. Sheesh, with all of this fangirling, I am definitely rambling on more than I hoped to, and now I'm getting to the fangirliest of fangirling, because something came to me in my library holds today that is upending a lot of my prescribed February TBR. I think I'll be knocking some of those books off, because it's Tempest and Slaughter! I have it right here! It was just released on Tuesday, and it came to the library a day before Tuesday. I guess they knew what a splash this would be, I guess. I don't know. Tamora Pierce is a well-known YA author, and I am speaking not only as an adult reading YA now, I'm speaking as someone who read her books when I was a teenager, because this book, Tempest and Slaughter, is the start of a new series, and it goes into the backstory of stuff that was introduced in my favorite of Tamora Pierce's books, Emperor Mage. This was published in the mid-90s, and gosh, you can just tell the difference between books released in the mid-90s and books released now. First of all, Tempest and Slaughter, I think, is twice the size in page length of Emperor Mage, much less that this is a, you know, a mass market and this is, you know, a big hardback. But I debated even if I wanted to buy Tempest and Slaughter, but I was a good girl and I restrained myself and figured I'll just give the library copy a try to begin with and see how I like this whole series. Hopefully the other two books will come out relatively quickly, although this one, Tamora Pierce, had been promising for years, and now it is finally here, and I'm so excited, and I'm hoping I can just get through this so quickly and fangirl so much about the stuff that was introduced in this book, and I will report back probably next week with how I feel about it and how it lives up. And that about covers it for me. Man, oh man, I have to calm myself down after this weekend of reading and writing and fun stuff. Gosh, to go back to work and the daily grind after all that. I guess that's life. And definitely looking forward to my reading next week, so that's something. So thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.